I- Yeah, the other and for big news on that was the 14th of October. Yeah, their Court of Appeals ruled that only Muslims could use the word. Yeah.
That's
Mean
yeah.
Meanwhile, in interesting turn, well, let's start with Iraq actually. Over the last couple of days, Al Qaeda forces have the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, which are the Al Qaeda in Iraq and Syria. They have taken over most of Fallujah and Ramadi, which a lot of people recognize those names from when U.S. troops
Yeah.
struggled to hold those areas. Um, and Al Qaeda has pretty much gone in, and the military's pretty much stayed out of it. They've set up around the cities and used some artillery and aircraft there, but for the most part, they're letting the police and the local tribes take care of it, so as not to upset the rest of the local population against them. Because with the two different Muslim groups, the government being the one and the area being the other, they're trying to not make an issue of that.
Mhm.
However, you still have a big separation now, whereas Al Qaeda's become distanced from its own side of the Muslim split, the normal Muslim split. Though an interesting thing today happened when the former governor of that area asked the U.S. to send troops,
Hmm.
and he said that they wanted U.S. troops because U.S. troops are recognized as independent. In other words, they're not fighting for either Muslim side, and they're recognized as really good fighters. So here you have Muslim tribal leaders in Iraq asking for U.S. forces to help them.
Yeah.
John Kerry did reply that we will send support, but we will not send troops. Which, with the Iraq military just sitting back and watching, I mean, they're going to go in if the tribes lose, and they'll just start wiping stuff out.
Yeah.
But they're, but it's interesting here in Iraq where you have the split now happening between Al Qaeda and its side of the Muslim split. Meanwhile, in Syria, the same thing is happening. The Syrian rebel forces have formed under the banner of the Army of Mujahideen and declared war against the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant there. So previously, all the Al Qaeda's Islamic State of Iraq and Levant had been on the rebel side, fighting against the regime in Syria. However, they've been off and on fighting between them and the other rebel forces. Well, now the Mujahideen have formed to combat the Al Qaeda in Syria, making it a three-way civil war. We have the two different rebel sides, the non-Al Qaeda Muslims and the non-religious Syrians on one corner versus the Al Qaeda on the other side, and versus the regime still. But it's interesting, both these countries, over the last several days, you've had this split where the Al Qaeda has become an enemy of the Muslims.
Which isn't a bad thing.
Oh no, it's a very good thing, especially from our point of view. Interestingly, this is after we talked about it a couple weeks ago, where Al Qaeda was doing this new promotion publicity about how they were the defenders of Islam. Clearly, that publicity worked well for them now that they're being declared war on by other Muslim groups.
Yeah, but at the same time though, it again raises the question of, well, should they have gotten in, should they, meaning the U.S., have gotten involved at all?
Yes, that'll be an unanswerable question for eternity.
Yeah.
I did see an interesting from a retired colonel from the army that he stated when he was commenting about the us being asked to go back in by the Iraqi tribal leaders. He said, "Well, that's a bad idea, but it just reiterates that we should not have left at least so quickly. We should have stayed in and helped finish the job."
Yeah.
Which there again, opinions are going to differ on that one, but that I've heard that from other military vets as well, that they just, I mean, it was clear to many people, even that weren't in the military, that by leaving so suddenly, we were just leaving it open for the fight to continue longer. We were just getting our people out of the way, which is kind of what we're doing in Afghanistan, too, by pledging to be out this year.
Mm-hmm.
Though, of course, now we're keeping people there permanently, so, yeah. And while we're on that note, we did have 2 U.S. military deaths this week in Afghanistan. Sergeant Jacob M. Hess, 22 of Spokane, Washington, of the Marines, died on January 1st. He was killed during combat in Helmand Province. He was assigned to the Marine Aviation Logistics Squadron 26, Marine Aircraft Group 26, 2nd Marine Aircraft Wing, 2nd Marine Expeditionary Force out of Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And then just yesterday, Sergeant First Class William K. Lacey, 38 of Laurel, Florida, was killed during combat. He was a member of the Army assigned to the 201st Brigade Support Battalion, 3rd Brigade Combat Team, 1st Infantry Division out of Fort Knox, Kentucky.
Rest in peace.
Yeah. Always sad when we lose them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully not many more, but yeah, that's definitely a wish and a dream, not anywhere near actuality. Even if we got out of Afghanistan today, we'd still lose some more somewhere.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that
the nature of it.
Yeah. It's a disappointing situation when that happens.
Yeah. So how about we take that second break and then we'll come back and switch topics.
On a high note, right?
Something to that, yes.
We'll be right back, folks.
Mr. President, members of Congress, you've been making a lot of noise about taking our guns away. But you might want to review history. 1835, Gonzales, Texas Territory. The authorities wanted to confiscate the big gun that protected that colony. You know what the people said? Come and take it. Because they were willing to fight for their freedom and their guns. So are we.
Come and take it if you want it. Come and take it if you think you can. Come and take it, but I warn you, you'll have to pry it from my cold dead hands. We want the freedom that God gave us, so you best not cross that line. If you want this gun, you gotta come through us and take it.
One shot at a time. Just like Gonzales, we're keeping our guns.
Back here on Vigilant Liberty Radio, this is Next with Jonathan Sangster.
Welcome back, y'all. Or is it welcome back to us? I'm not sure. Who left?
Welcome back, y'all. Glad to be here.
I actually got a y'all from out of you. That's amazing.
A y'all out of me?
Yeah.
I use it all the time.
I don't notice it. Maybe I'm too busy saying it.
Yes.
It's possible. Definitely the only person I've ever heard of that can say oot and a boot, y'all. Living in Canada and the South comes up with some interesting combinations of words.
Never know what's going to happen.
And every once in a while, a surfer word will come out too.
A what?
Some sort of surfer terminology.
Dude.
No, that one, not often. It actually bugs me sometimes, especially when girls call me that. I'm like, no. That one annoys me.
Dude,
Yeah.
buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, I have one friend, she always, oh, every time I get text from her, it's prefaced with dude, and I'm just like, no, don't do that.
What's up, bro?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, not acceptable. So I'm like, from a guy, okay. From a girl, no, no. Yeah. Speaking of dudes, I've seen a few of them around here lately. For those that don't know, on Wednesday morning at 8 in the morning, um, Colorado became the first place in the world where marijuana could legally be sold. And if you don't know, I do work at a restaurant as manager, and we've had people come in, mostly from California, and they specifically are here because they can buy weed legally.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, they come to good food because
They're
apparently
hungry.
that's a byproduct of smoking. I've heard that.
I
I've never
wouldn't
known.
know. I'll be honest. I would not know.
Yeah, contact's high as close as I've ever gotten. And that normally just gives me a bad headache, so.
Wouldn't know.
But, yes, that became it. The law was signed over a year ago, but it just finally became enacted on the 1st, and it allows for residents to purchase up to 1 ounce at a time. Non-residents can only do a quarter of an ounce at a time. Marijuana sales are taxed 25% above sales tax, which is partially a lot of what got it through, was that all the extra income for the state.
Mm-hmm.
A good chunk of which is being aimed to help fund schools. So, by selling drugs, we're putting the kids through education.
Well, I mean, there is the argument that that it should be legal, and because if you look at alcohol, how do they handle alcohol sales? Where does the cash for alcohol go?
Yeah.
So,
Tax.
and there's also the historical standpoint to point out the fact that it was made illegal in 1918.
Yeah.
So so it hasn't been illegal for that long.
Yeah. Which brings up a big point that it is illegal in the United States to possess or sell, etc., anything to do with weed. That is still illegal in the country. But yet within Colorado's borders, you can now sell it, and in Washington and Colorado, you can possess the small amounts. In Colorado, it's an ounce at maximum. And so the U.S. government hasn't moved against Colorado's law, which made it a states' right thing if they ever do. But yeah, that's always been, since it's been ruled, it's been a thing of wait and see. Will the federal government do something about it?
Yeah, and if you look at how, some of the complaints have been, oh yeah, the president said he was going to loosen, he was going to loosen stuff, loosens. He was going to loosen things about whatever you want to loosen things about about pot law.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it's just like, well, no, actually, what they've done is made more arrests and stuff like that. Well, there's a question, and so I think what will be very interesting to see